okay. We got paper, yes we do. Wide ruled notebooks, pencils, glue. We got crayons every hue. School supplies for your whole crew. Target's got everything you need to ready, set, go back to school.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, I hear that I'm slacking, apparently, because I didn't have a show on Monday or Tuesday. Hey, everybody, it's me. It's Cindy of Cin's Chat Corner. Obviously, I didn't do those 2 days because my kids were home, and they actually just left late this morning. Here I am in my very hot kitchen, being very tired and very excited and nervous about today's guest doing my show. So, hey, everybody, thanks so much for listening in. I want to remind everybody really quickly, obviously, Tom's interview is today at noon. Second of all, we're having tomorrow's interview. Let me just see if I can pronounce her name, actually. It's Dr. Feldman, for lack of a better term. I don't want to try to pronounce the whole name. She's going to be on at 1 o'clock. She's a clinical psychologist who is actually about to talk about what we call the grit book. Excuse me. Let me get this. You know what? Let me just pull this up because I'm sitting here and I'm not looking at it in front of me, and I should be. Too many papers on my page all at one time here. It's called the Grit Guide for Teens, actually. She serves in a clinical psychologist capacity using things such as cognitive behavioral therapy. And what she decided to do was to take and integrate some of her principles into the school system, and she created the book to talk about grit, which is basically, long story short, and we'll get into this at fuller length tomorrow, which is just a means and a way to push positivity and the positive of thinking properly, using your positives instead of your negatives, using your I can instead of I can't, to formulate and to familiarize yourself with a way to be happy each and every day to some degree. So I'm really super excited to talk to her about it. If you guys want to look her up, her name, like I said, it's Karen, and it's spelled Caren, Baruch, that's Baruch, Feldman is her last name. And the guide is called Grit Guide for Teens. Hillary Herskowitz, thank you so much for that hookup. I am so excited. And then, of course, also tomorrow at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, Keith Boynton is coming on the show. He is actually the producer and the creator of Seven Lovers movie, along with 7 other films as well. He's also a poet. He's also a playwright. I'm so excited. And he is totally cool. He has such a way with words. He has such a way to create magic with words that I'm so excited to have him on the show. So, yeah, we have a double-decker tomorrow. We obviously have Tom on the show today. And then Friday, we are still waiting to try to find out if I'm going to have a guest or not. So we might just have a potpourri of guests on Friday. You never know. Wait, take a look at my show page or else my personal page. So without further ado, because I know that Tom is waiting, let's get him on the line and start speaking to him. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Cindy.
Sorry for the delay. Hi. I was rambling and talking about life and my shows and all that good stuff. So hi.
No, I heard it.
Here.
It was great.
I try to kind of do that little improv thing in case you haven't read my page or in case you haven't read my show page or my regular page. There's a lot of maintenance that comes along with doing this. But you'll be happy to know I'm in my pajamas in my kitchen where no one can see me doing my show right now. Yes, pajamas. You can do your job in pajamas. Today I'm doing that because I'm tired. So thank you for coming on.
I've never asked a hostess, but what are you wearing? I guess.
Literally. This is so funny because you're not in Wisconsin. I'm in Wisconsin. Right now it's probably, I'm going to guess, somewhere around 80 degrees. So in my kitchen it warms up really fast. So I just turn the air on, and I just have one long, you know how, I'm sure your wife has one of these, one long nightshirt, so to speak.
No, she only wears negligés. Hello? Cindy? Hello?
Okay, Tom?
Got it. You all set?
Tom? Okay, this is
yes.
weird. See, this happened last week, too, where we were having technical difficulties. That's the frustration with Internet-based radio, is it can cut you off, all of a sudden a call will drop, but here we're both here now, right? I'm here. You're here.
I thought it was because I said negligee and you hung up on me.
First of all, it takes a hell of a lot more to it takes so much more to offend me than that. It's ridiculous. So of course
I get that sense.
But you know what it's like when you do these interviews? People are always like, "Oh, you have to be so professional." And trust me, by the end of the interview, if I did my job right, you will say that I am that professional. But they just take it so seriously. Like, they expect me to look like Katie Couric or Barbara Walters, and I'm like, if you came to my kitchen right now, you'd be sitting here and you'd see my little Italian icy over here. You'd see my coffee, and you'd see me running around with a nightgown because it's hot in here and I'm tired. And when I do, and when I get done with you, I have to edit, 20,000 word document. So that's my day. Yay! So I'm like, you're not going to care if I show up in a nightie, right? We don't care, right? None of us cares right now.
I don't
so here
care.
we are.
I'm
The real
picturing
question is,
it,
what is
but I don't
Tom
care.
wearing right now? Is Tom in a suit right now? Because I'm betting he's not. No suit,
I
right?
really am. I hate to tell you what I'm wearing because you'll be so embarrassed. So I better not.
And we're on the X-rated version of
Remember, I'm
Corner
home
today.
alone, too.
Well, now. Does your wife know this, and does she know what you're wearing?
After
That's a good
42
segue to
years,
start.
I'm not so sure she cares.
I was just going to say, that is a segue to actually talking about that question first, because one of the things
Sure.
that I made a point to put in the write-up is that you've been married for 42 years. First of all, that's fascinating to me for two reasons. I fell in love with a musician once, and, yeah, you guys are very odd. I'm not going to lie. You do things a little differently. So that would make it a little difficult and challenging. And then second of all, tell us really seriously, in your opinion, what do you feel some of the main components or ingredients are in terms of having a marriage sustain that long? It's incredible, by the way. Congratulations. That's remarkable. So I wanted you to give us a little insight. Tell us how that happened.
Sure. I guess I will say the most profound thing I've ever heard someone say, and it's really true. The key to a long marriage is that no one ever left. That really is the key, that during tough times and times that we couldn't stand the sight of each other, just no one got up and left.
Wow. That's so... You just gave me a bit of knowledge you have no idea how much that meant. Thank you very much. So now tell us about your little bride, because,
it is true.
Really?
Yeah, because we've gone through hell and back together. We have 3 adult children, and have had some losses over the years, and have not both been perfect, and and just every time it got rough, we still stayed there. So, that was
is she a musician?
She was a musician for a while.
Okay.
But not really. We played together actually for a while, about 20 years ago. But first of all, she hated playing with me because I'm very annoying to be leading when I lead a band. I'm very annoying. Actually, once I told her to walk the bass line, and I said it again. I said, walk the bass line, and she just put the bass down and walked out.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
The band applauded because I was such a taskmaster. But we've been married 42 years. She was a school teacher. So
nice.
the thing about her, she always thinks that things are going to work out. So when I started off as a musician, a road musician, I did that for years, and then came home and said, I think I'm going to be a school teacher. So I got my degree in teaching. I taught school for 5 years, and then I came home one day and said, I think I'm going into business. And the only thing I heard her say was, well, you won't let us starve, right, because you have no business experience. I said, no, I think we'll be all right. And 25 years later, I quit the business, and here I am again.
Well, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about, obviously, is, of course, there are many of us out there, and I'm big on pushing dreams and pushing to make sure that somebody finds their way to doing their dream in some manner, shape, or form. So I want you to talk to people about the realities of this, because, of course, you are a VP at Cox Communications. And so we look at that and we say, oh, my goodness, look at this. He has a prominent position in a very pertinent company. And then he just decides, you know what, I'm going to go off and do this. So I want you to talk to people listening, because many of them are creatives and they're out doing their thing. I want you to be realistic and dreamy at the same time, if you would. So talk to us a little bit about the upside of that move and decision, and then tell people how challenging it must have been, because you just up, left, and decided, hey, I'm doing this, and this is going to be my career,
Yeah, challenging is an understatement, really. But I first of all, I always loved music, and when I got into the corporate world, I really liked what I was doing, and I was making a good amount of money, so I did that until my last 2 kids were in college together, and we were paying their tuition as we went, almost like a car loan. And one day my wife is in the living room, and I'm not making this up. She's in the living room. I say, hey, what are you doing? She said, oh, I'm paying the last 2 tuition payments for our children. And they were enormous. And I said, well, then I'm going to quit. And we discussed it. And I gave my notice the next day and told them, you can't just walk out when you're at a high position. So I stayed till the end of the year, which was about 6 months. And in December I left, last day of December. And January 1, I started as a musician. That was 9 years ago.
Wow. Was that scary?
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine that it was probably an adrenaline rush for you and like, oh, my God, this is going to be so cool and exciting. But was there any sense of maybe fear or, some sort of not so much anticipation, but just being a little leery about the fact that, hey, look what I just did here, and is this going to work? So were you frightened at all?
Only frightened. I was never excited about it. It was something that I had to do, and I thought, I'm ruining my at least my wife's life because, there's no money to be made in the music business. Certainly in the early stages. There's a joke out there. How do you get $1 million in the music business?
Okay.
You know what the answer is? You start with $2 million.
Very cute.
Right? I mean,
Very cute.
you've been around all this.
Yes.
The world has changed. It ain't pretty. So I knew it wasn't, but I also knew that to be a weekend musician and get your $100 is a fool's game because you're not going to make it because if you don't have any money, you can't go on the marketing side of this and on the business side. So anyway, I had enough to, and I'm not complaining because it was actually good. I have enough to kind of kickstart my career. The other thing, you asked about fear. The biggest fear I had was my age, because it's a young guy's game, and I auditioned in New York City almost exclusively, and almost every time in the beginning, I heard, "Man, you really play well. You're great, But you're, we're looking for a young guy, it was that kind of thing," which I understood, and then I took it over as, "Hey, the hell with this, I'll do it myself." And now the age thing doesn't matter anymore. I'm playing everywhere.
I'm really surprised that you would even say such an age thing because coincidentally, I don't know if you know this or not, but obviously Mick Jagger's birthday is today. Now you realize not everybody obviously is a Rolling Stone, etc. But I am finding. I mean, do you find this in your area? Because of course I'm not in the same area that you're in, so I get exposure to like LA and other places and things. Mm-hmm. But do you find though? Because I'm starting to see a trend where you have older musicians that are actually initiating careers at an older stage of their life. I mean, would you say that's kind of becoming more of a current trend? Because I think it is.
I honestly don't know because now I'm in my own bubble. Now it's me, so I hire the musicians. I've gotten very well known in 9 years, but I have to say there's a bigotry in the music business, and it really has to do primarily with age. And a lot of it, I have to say, a lot of it was the fact that I was auditioning for hip-hop bands and that kind of thing. And the funny thing is I actually got into 2 very cool hip-hop bands, not because they wanted me, just that I happened to be the best guitarist for what they needed. So I actually did that for 4 years in the city.
God, look at that.
Yeah, It was great.
Oh, I imagine
I spent more time in
the
Harlem. I mean, I just had so much fun doing the hip-hop thing.
Huh. And I can't peg you for doing that. Forgive me for saying this, but do you know what I mean? Like you look at Tom, if you guys have seen Tom, which some of you probably have not, if you actually get a look at him, the furthest thing from my mind screams the word hip and hop. You know what I'm talking about? Like I just totally cannot see.
I know, but they like that long-haired kind of, people have said, I've got that kind of Jesus thing going on. They like that. And so they thought that was cool, and I am very good on stage. I'm not a stand-around kind of guy. I mean, I'm in the audience. I'm everywhere.
Yeah.
And they like
that. Oh, definitely, and I think it adds to audience appeal. I mean, oftentimes, like tonight, I'm going to see two bands, and one of the main reasons is because there's a sax player and a keyboard player. It's a full-length, jazzy, funky sort of band, and they're all over the place, and they've got a beautiful female lead singer. I mean, it's just fun energy. People like and gravitate to energy, especially those that bring high energy on stage. I think it's kind of a reflection of who you are, without a doubt. So that's why I think age doesn't really matter. I mean, honestly, I think that sometimes when you start later in life, don't you think you're a little bit wiser and a little more willful in some ways, meaning that you're willing to go out on limbs that maybe younger kids are not? Does that make sense?
I also show up. I show up
well,
on
yeah,
time.
That's perfect.
And I'm prepared. Now those people that didn't want me before dying because now I do studio stuff. I'm very good at it, and I'm always prepared because that's how I was, raised. It's different now.
Oh, it is totally different. And I guess I got to ask you this question. I've been asking a lot of musicians lately because it's like a crow in my back. Well,
you weren't going to ask me about boxers or briefs? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
How did you know that?
I knew that because we started off by you telling me you were in pajamas.
Let me tell you why that's weird. Because when I go out on dates, I kid you not, I try not to be the interviewer because I've been doing this for 5 years. But lately I've been hearing from people like, is this an interview? And I'm purposely not trying to do that. But I have like these standard questions. I kid you not. And one of my standard questions is, do you prefer boxers or briefs? Because I'm not going to lie, I'm a brief girl. I like a guy with briefs, none of these Speedo things, any of that weird crap. I'm like, I'm a boxer girl. So that's so ironic that you said that. So I'm going to guess that Tom's a boxer guy. That's my guess.
No, I'm not. I'm a brief guy, and I'll get your address just before we hang up.
How funny is that?
And unfortunately for you, it will be brief.
But we're here all day.
I know. Sorry.
Okay. This is a very serious question that frustrates me a lot with my musicians. And I think this stems more from my heart because I have a heart for not only musicians in general, but especially the underdog musicians, like here in Wisconsin. And I'm sure it might be the same there. I want you to talk a little bit about the pay-to-play scenario, because obviously that's becoming more prevalent as well. And I'm curious to see how you as a musician, how are you affected by this? Do you know what I mean? Like, are you an advocate of this? Has it affected you positively or negatively? Can you talk about that? Because I know musicians listen to my show too. And I think that's important because I'm not big on it.
First of all, there's the, bend over scenario, which is, come to our place and we're going to, give you exposure. Okay, that to me is pretty heinous, and I've, in New York City, that is the norm. You usually, it's not a pay to play, but it's more, come and we'll give you some obscure cut of numbers that we're not going to tell you, and like one day I packed the room in a major club in New York, and they gave me $35.
Are you serious?
They do the new math, So here's the way I look at pay to play, and every musician out there is going to hate me. I think this is because I'm a businessman. If I'm going to get a call from Joe Bonamassa, and he says, "Look, I've filled a room with 5,000 people, and you can open for me." And it's going to cost you $1,000. That's fair because I didn't get that audience. He did. And that's all the years that he has put into that. And him bringing me there is going to have a definite positive effect on me. It's not like this obscure thing I'm talking about in the city where they say, come and bring 30 of your best friends and, we'll have 40 people there. That's nothing. Right. But if I can get in front, I probably can make the money up on merch and future. So I'm the only one that I know of that probably says that that's fair and it's a good business scenario.
I gotcha. And the only reason I ask is because It does make sense. I kind of sit on the fence about that because in some ways I'm like, yes, obviously the business will bring a draw in to begin with because they've established it, especially if they've been around for a while. On the other side of the fence, I think some credit has to be given because the musician himself, if he markets himself and promotes himself, you know how many people you're going to bring in. Or you know what I mean? You have some idea of, hey, I think so many people, XYZ people are coming in. So I almost feel like it's a partnership of sorts. I guess that's what I'm comfortable with. Like if you both work together, it benefits everybody, doesn't it? Or maybe I'm just a dreamer.
I guess, but going back to what Joe Bonamassa, if he says, okay, I'm bringing 5,000 people, how many are you going to bring? And I'm a fledgling musician, and I say, gee, I bet I'm going to bring 100. He's sitting there thinking, well, this guy's done nothing for me. Now, I will say I've had scenarios, like I open for a lot of big people in Connecticut, and I just opened for the guitar player for Hall & Oates, who's very well known. And I packed the room. He didn't, because people know me in this area.
Oh, sure.
And my producer, Paul Nelson, who is world famous. He's a multi-Grammy winner, and he was a guitarist with Johnny Winter. It's hard when you're that internationally famous because sometimes locally people didn't know that. So there again, I was able to help in bringing a lot of people. So it all depends. Like for that, I don't want to pay. But if I'm bringing 100 against 5,000, hey, I should pay.
Yeah, you're right. Musicians aren't going to like you.
No,
I'm not a musician, so I like you.
My name is Bill Smith.
And I work in Cleveland. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
thank you for that insight. Now that I'm going to get lynched.
And I wear boxers just to make sure.
And he wears boxers. That he won't tell me specifically, but okay, fine. No, this is kind of cool. I think that we need to talk about this because I already know about the legend of the suit, but we got to talk about it because you call yourself the suit. Most people listening probably are like, what's up with the suit thing? So let's talk about that because that stems all the way back when your son had a punk rock group. How cool was that?
Well, you know more about me than I do. That's great. Yeah, it was my son. My son had a pretty well-known. My son is a keyboard player, and he had a pretty well-known punk band in New York. In the city, in the Bronx area. So he called me up one day and he said, look, this is right after I retired. I quit right after that. So he said, hey, I want you to wear one of your, twinkly little suits that you wear. And because I am a very strong guitar player. And people, and you have to picture that I had short hair, no facial hair. I really look like a businessman, So he said, I want you to show up at the gig in your wingtips, and I don't want you to say a word. Just show up with your guitar. I'll have everything for you. So I get there, and this place is jammed, and I mean jammed. And it's pretty much a punk crowd, very young, 20 plus, 21 plus. So I get there. He does a couple of songs, and he said, listen, I'm going to bring this guy up. And so I walk up in my suit in the middle of the song. I plug in, and I go to town. I rip the place apart. And people are stunned. They are just stunned by the way I look and versus the way I play. And all of a sudden he said, hey, this is the suit. And everybody starts screaming, suit. Hey, suit, suit. And then I'm done, right? I get off stage. They're still screaming for the suit. And that's how it started.
Oh, that is so cool, isn't it? And you know what? I've seen you in suits. I've seen you in bow ties, too. The dude rocks a bow tie. I'm going to tell you folks that. I mean, it's like absolutely crazy. And that is really neat, actually. I want you to talk about that, too, because some of the folks that I know, I've told lately that I'm getting a younger demographic. So one of the things I like to cover and talk about with musicians is, like, for instance, if you met me tonight, you would see that I have bling on every part of myself except for my ears. I'm lazy and I don't want to wear earrings. But, if you look at my neck, if you look at my arms, there's bling everywhere. And it's not small, it's big. And why do I do that? Well, first of all, it's sentimental to me. But more importantly, it makes you noticeable. So if I were to ask you, what makes Tom Forst noticeable besides your playing? What's significantly unique about you, Tom?
I will say this, that I truly believe that there's a God in music, and the God is the song. I don't believe that the God is the guitar player or the band. I believe that everything spirals around the song. So every song, for me, is a living thing, and nobody works harder than I do in that song. So whether I'm playing fast or slow, people feel that emotion, and I get that all the time. I get it all the time when I'm done playing. They don't say, "Oh, you're fast," or "Oh, that's so flashy." I get, "My God, that song that you played, I almost cried." I get that kind of thing.
Oh,
yeah, I know. I know.
And would you definitely advocate the whole idea of, like, especially guys that go out there and they're first starting out, do you think they need to find themselves what I call a niche of some sort, meaning in the way they look and the way they stand and how they play? Would you recommend something along those lines? Because obviously,
well, I will tell you, and again, they're going to hate me. Okay, I know they're going to hate me again.
Great, Tom. You come on, and everyone's going to stop listening. Great.
Yeah, I'm in several groups, and they're all pro bands, and I argue with one in particular. I say, look, why is it that musicians feel that they have to look like they don't care that they're entertaining people? Why do they have to show up in work boots and jeans with rips in them and their old, dinky, dorky shirt? Why is that? Why can't they show that they really respect the audience and they respect the music? It's not just that I'm, an ex-business guy. It's that I believe that the music deserves respect and the audience deserves it. So when I show up, man, it's a show. It's not a song. It's not just a song. And that's the way I really, really feel. If I wasn't the suit, I would still dress for shows. It's a respect thing.
I agree with you, definitely. And I enjoy watching, well, our musicians here might be a little different. Like, come in all different breeds and sizes and forms and all that good stuff. I've always been a sucker for a guy in a suit, I won't lie. But then again, I'm more of a Sinatra / Dean Martin kind of girl. So, of course, I like all that older kind of stuff. But I do think there's something very dashing about the presentation of a musician, especially when he comes out and he looks the part and plays the part, so to speak. We all have those designated roles, if you will. So I would probably concur with that to some extent. So I don't think you're going to make people as mad as you did with the prior answer. So you're doing okay.
I know. I know.
Now, we want to turn a little bit about, because I know that you're an educated man, obviously. You have an MBA, and, of course, you also attended Eastern Connecticut State University. I was remiss in being able to find a place or to be able to confirm or deny if any of this education has served you as it's relative to the music career or not. So are you self-taught, or is it just a matter of you learned over time, meaning education of some sort I'm unaware of?
You know what? You're talking about learning the guitar?
Yes. Sorry,
yeah,
I
did what every typical kid did. At least my age. At about 8 or 9 years old, I went down to the local music store, in the small town that we had, and took lessons from a lady called Mrs. Hall, and did that from 8 to 15. And then at 15, she said, "You've really surpassed anything I can do. Now you're going to be the teacher." So I taught from 15 to 18 at the music studio. Beyond that, I took some sparse lessons here and there, but I used to practice 8 hours a day.
Oh,
wow! In my basement. Yeah, They called me Mole Man when I was a teenager because I never came out in the summer. I would just go down in the morning.
Okay, dumb question. I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. Well, I have two grown ones that don't really have any interest in music. And then I have my two boys. One's playing a violin now, and then, of course, the other one has been playing the clarinet. I have to take their teeth out to get them to play more than 15 minutes. That's taking teeth out and phones away, etc. So, when I hear the word 8 hour, or I hear this expression, and you're like, 8 hours, and I'm thinking, oh, my God. Nowadays, being a grown man, not that you weren't a grown man before, but obviously older and wiser, typically before a show, let's talk prep time a little bit, or practicing. How much practice and how much prep time do you need, or do you find that that's kind of diminished little by little, meaning you need less and less as time goes on?
I need more and more, and I do less and less. That is the honest truth. But I do have to mention it because I'm not really being fair. when it came to my lesson, so Mrs. Hall gave me, the music and, learn this piece and it. I came home and never practiced that, ever. My father came home every night and he would say, "Did you practice?" And I'd say, "Well, I couldn't practice." And he'd say, "Go upstairs and practice." And I went up and I had to practice 1 hour, not 55 minutes, 1 hour. In our house, and this is where things have changed in the world, I believe, is that when you started something, you were told you can start this, but you can't quit it.
Right.
So it's your choice. You don't have to do it, but if you're going to do it, you will not quit, and you will not give excuses. And of course, I gave excuses. So every night, my father came home and said the same thing: "Did you practice?" And every night I'd say no. When I say 8 hours, that was usually during the summertime, and it was all rock music. It was nothing to do with my lessons. So that's a little different.
Gotcha. I understand.
Yeah.
I just want to make that clarification.
It's an interesting thing. I owe it to my parents who just never let me quit anything. Like, I will be very successful in the music business because either I will do it until I die. So either I'll die first or I'll be successful. It's just the way it is. I don't even think about it.
I gotcha.
There's no option for me. So anyway,
well, I wanted to make sure that I
clarified that. That's not because I'm
a
good guy. It's just the way they taught me.
No, I understand. I guess I wanted to make sure that I asked that only because of the fact is, like I said, I've tried various angles and ways to try to convince them and say to them, "Hey, you know what, boys? If you want to get better at this, you got to keep trying. You got to keep doing. I know that you're good now, but you have to do more and that stuff." And I just feel like it's become more. You know how you get to that point? It's like, when do you know it's becoming more of a chore than it is a something that they cherish? You know what I mean? Because kids complain, and they're 10 and 12, almost 13. Yeah. So I kind of am asking myself, is this really what he wants to do? Because violin, I'm told, is not that simple or that simplistic.
It is not, but it's not. They're all not that simple. Depends on it. I will tell you this: when I was probably 11, I got so mad. I opened the door, and I was on the second story, and flung my electric guitar out the window.
Oh my
God!
Now,
halfway down, I'm reminding myself that my 5'4", high mother is an animal, and she's going to kill me. And it landed in the mud, so it didn't break. It landed on the bottom of it, so it didn't break, and it went right in the mud. So I ran down, I cleaned that thing off, and never did that again. I will tell you this: I hated the guitar for a minimum of 5 to 6 years. Hated it. Every minute of it, hated it. Yeah, that's why people always say, when they ask me about lessons, well, Sally doesn't seem to like it. No, she doesn't like anything that's hard, and it's hard. But there was a point where I did it long enough where I said, you know what, this isn't that bad. And then I said, oh, look what I just learned. Oh, wait a minute, and then it got better and better. But if my parents didn't force me, and my father never gave me a reason, he just said, go up and practice. If I didn't have that, and you know what, I have 3 kids, two daughters and a son. They could start piano if they wanted to, but they could not end until they were 13 years old. That was the deal. 2 of them quit the day they turned 13, and my son became a professional musician. So.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Yeah, I like to hear that.
And he's a piano player, and he makes a ton of money in San Francisco.
Look at that. Well, at least he's doing what he loves to do. I assume he has the same passion as his father.
Yeah, he's better at it. And he's young. He makes a ton of money because he doesn't just play. He's a writer, and he does video games and virtual reality and that kind of.
Nice. Very, very cool, actually.
I mean, he makes a real income.
A real income. Now, am I to assume, and this is an assumption, that your brother Stephen is also creative and or a musician, or no?
I'm sorry? my what?
Your brother? Am I to assume that Stephen is a musician and or a creative as well? Does it run in the complete family in terms of your siblings?
Yeah, my brother passed away. His name wasn't Stephen though. It was Art. He was an accordion player, and actually was quite good at it. But no, he had no interest in pursuing it. Yeah, he was more into higher education. What's that?
I'm confused. I want to just clarify this because the only reason that I brought this up is only because of the fact that you have a listed family member with the name of Stephen on your profile. That's the reason that question came from. Because it says one family member. Okay, now I feel like a jerk because I'm like,
you don't have to
about your
feel like.
And by the way, I'm so sorry. I did not. I was unaware that your brother had passed.
It's funny when people do that stuff. Believe me, I remember he died. It's when somebody brings it up, it doesn't really matter to me.
Well, as a journalist,
I don't know
try
the
to
Stephen thing. I'll have to go back and look. I didn't write my profile.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just so you know that. Oh, you didn't. Okay. So just so you know this, I don't know if you recognize the name. Stephen Nardine.
Oh, Stephen Nardine is my best friend.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, there you go then. And he's a musician apparently.
He's my best friend, and he's a terrible musician.
Oh,
he sucks.
I'm batting about 12 today out of 1,000, folks. Thanks. Great.
No, that is no problem.
I
think it's funny. I'm going to mention to him that you mentioned his name and that I told everybody that he sucks on the air.
Now, obviously, we want to talk about the fact that you are, to those that are listening and that don't know, you're obviously a recording artist for Factory Underground Records. So I want you to talk to me a little bit about that organization because obviously different artists come on, they're signed to different labels, different places. Tell me a little bit how Factory has helped to formulate a foundation for you musically and some of the perks of working with them.
Yeah, over the years, over this 9 years, you get people that come to you once in a while and talk to you about signing and all this. And most of them are indie labels. I did talk to Sony once, and they had some interest, which I was shocked about. But once I heard the story, I realized that I was talking to cavemen, that they didn't have any vision of what's going on in the music world. They were talking like it was 1965 when you could sign into a record label and they would promote you and you'd get on and Cashbox would put you up on their you'd be number one or something like that. This is so different now that I wanted to be a part of a label, but I didn't want to be part of a standard label because it's not a good business scenario. And this group knows what's going on in the world today and are treating it like that. They're treating me like I'm a can of soup, which is exactly what I want. I'm a product, and the suit is is my image, and they push that image, and they do a nice job. So, like I gave an example just yesterday. I have a distribution now in China, which I'm very interested in because I want to tour China. I want to get out of the United States.
Okay. Let's backtrack a minute because you just said China, which means getting out of the United States. But China is a whole other country, obviously. So what appeals to you about that? I would be a little nervous about that. I mean, what if they don't like you? I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but meaning it's a different culture. So do you think you'd be as well accepted there? Do you know what I mean? Because there's more of a familiarization here.
Yeah, I know, but I'll just learn I'll learn how to say the hell with you then in Chinese.
Listen to I'll make it work.
You know what it is? I'm and I don't know how it is in your market, and maybe you could tell me I'm wrong. I'm getting an image now, after 9 years of doing this again, that the United States market listeners have little interest in new music. That's my image. That when I play an event
or new music, meaning
for new
what
music.
Does new music mean?
Music that they haven't heard before. That's not that they can't. If they don't know the artist too well, they can't sing along with it.
I got it. You're not being genre specific, just across the board new music. Okay, got it. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know about them all. I'm basically, I guess I'm going to say, the rock blues area. They want to hear, I go to these blues things. I'm a judge all the time for the Blues Society. Yeah, I do the international one, and the national one and the Connecticut one. And I know what the audience is going to like. And I know which bands will be more popular, and they're the ones that are doing all those old, used, worn-out blues songs that people have heard a million times. You get a band that gets up there and they're doing their own music. I notice people just don't have what they had when I was growing up, which is a thirst for new music. And I know for a fact in China and, Asia in general, that there's a thirst for things they haven't heard. So I'm willing to roll the dice on it.
Very cool. That makes
sense.
Really cool.
I mean,
explain it like that. Now it does. Now that you've spoken like that, of course it makes sense. Yeah. And that's exciting. I mean, from that standpoint, obviously. Now, would your wife venture there with you and take this little journey with you, or would this not be permanent? Would this just be kind of I'm going for this long, et cetera, and that's that?
Yeah, that's it. Cause in fact, it's funny you should say that because I talked to her about it this morning because I just found out yesterday. And she screwed up her face and looked at me and she said, "Seriously, China?" That was the answer. So I'm
love her.
You know what?
I'm
really good at. Yeah, I'm good at taking these subtle cues. I'm thinking she's saying no.
I'm thinking she's definitely, literally directing you, and I'm shaking my head thinking no. But no, that's exciting though. That's kind of cool actually. And speaking of which, since we're talking about the record thing already, so tell me what you know, because I've received a request from somebody else from apparently Robert Fullerton. Tell me what you know about him. He wants to be my friend. Apparently he's part of the record also, isn't he?
You said Fullerton? Is that what you said?
Robert Fullerton, as a matter of fact. He wants to be my friend.
Yes.
So apparently he works with...
he's a friend of mine. He's in this market. He's in the Connecticut market.
Nice.
He's quite a talent. He does a lot of solo work out here, and I think eventually we're going to be doing some writing together. I unfortunately have lost my partner who had just passed away this year.
Goodness, I'm
sorry. Yeah, so I do a lot of writing myself anyway, but I was talking to him about, doing some writing together for another album. So, yeah.
Again, perfect segue to the next question, which was, I have it on the docket here because I know you play guitar, but you also, of course, obviously write songs as well. So we want to talk about that. I just turned 48 recently, and I'm here to tell you I write professionally all the time, but I want to believe that I'm writing far better than I ever have in my life. However, at 48, I think sometimes the brain slows down and it works a little bit slower and it takes a little more tuning and a lot more patience and time. Now, I've never written a song before, so I'm curious to ask you, because obviously you're probably, 2 years older than me. I'm curious about your process. You're quite welcome, because we're going to leave it at 50. That's what we're going to do. I always ask people about their process, and I always say that because one of the reasons I want to know how you do your process for writing is because songwriters could be very different. Like, I always use Lady Gaga because she's been infamous for saying how she'll tie a good knot on with brandy or whiskey or whatever and write. I'm here to tell you, if I have 2 glasses of wine, the writing is done. I can't do it. My brain is mush. Can't happen, whatever. So I'm just curious about your process, meaning the who, what, when, and where. Like, where are you most of the time when you write? Are there things that inspire you? Have you thrown pieces out completely and said this is junk after you wrote it? So tell us a bit about what Tom looks like when he's creating his compositions.
Yeah, I'd like to tell you, I'm taking heroin and,
don't say that.
And I'm taking speed, and actually for me, it's basically grunt work. It is if I'm gonna do serious writing, like when the producer called and he said, "Look, I've got these great musicians. They're touring musicians. They're all coming into town at the same time. You've got 2 weeks." And I said, "But only half the album's written." He said, "Yeah, I know. That's really too bad. You got 2 weeks. See you then." I wrote every day, and I was on fire. No pun intended.
Sure.
I actually believe in a muse, and I'm not a particularly, orthodox type of, a religious person, but I truly believe that when you're working hard, that somebody said, hey, man, you're really putting the time in. I'm going to help you out. I get stuff. I have no idea where it comes from. It didn't come from me. I'll just put it that way. Some of my best songs, some of them have just written themselves. I just kind of wrote it out.
I totally get that. I do. So advice to the youngins then, or people first starting out, if they are interested in composition and creating songs, etc. What's a good, for lack of a better term, I'm not quite sure how to describe it. Like when authors come to me and they say, well, how do you create this? I mean, of course I have a formalized process, but a lot of it I think is really just working with fellow writers or working with people in the same business. Do you oftentimes find that you are very successful? Like if you're with members of your band and you're all writing together, do you find that that's easier for you versus doing a solo attempt? I mean, are there any kind of tricks of the trade, let's say, that you want to pass on to somebody?
I think it depends on the kind of song. One of the groups I'm with is the Jason Gisser Band, and they're out of New York, and they're amazing. And we do the best writing when we're together because most of our music tends to be very accessible type music, and it's got a good beat, and it's that kind of music. Somebody will start off with a good line, and the lead singer, who's not me in this band, will start doing a hook, write a hook, and then all of a sudden we're throwing out ideas. For me, it's nothing but work. I'm in my room and I work consistently when I'm really into it. I'm really every day I'm working. And your ear, and you probably know this from writing, I'll hear things that I never heard before. I'll be sitting and watching TV, and somebody will say some cute little line, some little line that just simply I go crazy on.
I do.
And
I do.
And all of a sudden, I'll say, "Oh, I love that line," and a whole song will come around it. But your ear doesn't pick that up normally. And I'm a little hard of hearing, so a lot of times the songs that I write are because I misheard what I thought I heard something, but I didn't, and I thought, whoa, that's great.
That's so funny. Okay, so now we have, I mean this in tongue-in-cheek, meaning that you have to explain that now when you throw it out there. So here's a man who says, I'm hard of hearing, and then he's on stage playing a guitar and writing songs, etc. Isn't this just a bit detrimental? I mean, do you know what I mean by that? Because, like, as a musician playing a guitar and you're on stage, I mean, how's that working out? I'm like trying to picture this. Like, doesn't he have to hear everything?
Yeah, it's not the greatest thing. I'd rather have perfect hearing, but it doesn't affect my pitch or anything like that. I have more trouble with consonants, listening to people's consonants.
I gotcha. Okay.
And it is from music, it's definitely. But I'm also careful. I wear plugs during rehearsals. I don't wear them during stage because I need to be on my game. Some guys do. I just can't. I just can't do it.
And this is
I don't mind a little pain,
Yeah, I get the sense of that. I've always wanted to ask one of the guitar players that I've interviewed before, and it's not often I get to ask this question because I'm going to assume, and I've never asked you this before, nor have I seen your closet, but I'm going to take the presumption that you are plentiful as it relates to the stock of guitars. Because I talk to certain people, like obviously some of them are sponsored by guitar companies, etc., so of course they use their brand. So I'm just curious what kind of brand that you use, how many do you have, and do you recommend to any musician out there top quality product as it relates to what you play? What would that be?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will answer it. I'm sitting in a room right now, which is my studio, and I've got 3 walls that just have nothing but guitars on them. Wow. I probably have, and I don't think I have that many. I think I have maybe a dozen, maybe more.
Okay.
But to answer your other question, and I heard a guitar player once say, and I've forgotten who it was, some famous guitar player, you could hand me a stick with strings on it, and I'm going to end up sounding like me. And I really believe that to a lot, to a point, that's true. And what I have the Gibsons of the world, and all, Martin, and the top brands. I have guitars that are, $4,000 or $5,000. But I also have guitars that I bought sight unseen directly from China, as an example, that were $200. I look for a boutique sound because for me, playing and sounding like, Joe Walsh is not my interest. I'm only interested in sounding like me. So I look for off-brand stuff in my pedals, my amps, everything. And sometimes that bites me quite well in the butt, by the way. But, yeah, I mean, I've got guitars that are, give you an example, I've got this 2 guitars that I just bought from China. They're lucite, so they're completely transparent, and they light up. I mean, it's just people just love it.
Oh my God!
Yeah, they light up completely. One twinkles and just does all kinds of stuff, and people go crazy with it. So even though it's a little hard to play, I play it a lot.
Look at that.
But I really do believe that it's your approach to the strings. And because I love every note so much, for me it's different than the Speed Demon, It's for me it's every single note.
Well, now that you've said that whole I want to sound like me, should I now apologize? Because in my write-up, folks, what I had said was he sounds very similar to 2 very iconic musicians. Ouch, I guess I shouldn't have said that.
Well, no,
great.
Are you kidding?
Because
I'm thrilled because that's how you get to be yourself, is when somebody thinks that you're as good as, Joe Walsh.
Well, and I do believe that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, and the other thing is that Eric Clapton sound in there. I don't know if you captured that or not, but the first 2 out of the 3 songs that I was listening to, out of the ones, because I looked at other places to listen to your music, but in particular the MP3s you sent, I was listening to the 2 out of the 3 and thinking to myself, I definitely hear some Eric Clapton coming out of that man's mouth. Not specific in terms of exact, but you can hear it in there. I mean, do you hear any of this within your own voice? I mean, do you know what I mean, or do you think I'm off in left field here? I'm just curious.
I do, and you know what? I'm not a copier. In other words, when kids were growing up, they were learning. I never did that. In fact, I never really listened to music that much. But of course, I went through the late 60s and 70s, where guys like Eric Clapton were just turning the world on its ear. And I don't think there's anything new under the sun. I'm gonna sound like things that I know about. And sure, I always get the Joe Walsh comparison on my guitar, and I get anything from Clapton. I mean, you're right. I probably would say that I have that sound. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm kind of on there. That's great. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't want to insult anybody because I know everybody tries to find their own voice and tries to find their own vocal talents and abilities as it relates to how they perform. So, and as a testament to him, folks, listen to this. Oh, my God, I have to he's open for Grand Funk, Three Dog Night, Marshall Tucker Band, the Atlantic Rhythm Section, and also, of course, Lucas Nelson, which is Willie Nelson's son. So here's an interesting question. Obviously, I talked to a lot of bands and a lot of solo artists who happen to open up for what some might consider definite big major acts. Not that you're not a major act to begin with. So my question to you is, one day, hush, we don't say that on my show. Everybody's a celebrity here. Remember,
I knew you were going to say that.
Back off.
Maybe we go back to the boxer brief thing.
No kidding. So my question is, when you become to the stature of what people consider to be, the stature of Willie Nelson or something like that, because I believe that you're pegged for that greatness, who would you want to open for you?
Wow. That is an
I know, right?
question.
Welcome to my show.
Wow.
We got the big
you know
questions
what?
on this program.
Thank you. I really got to think that way if you're going to make it, actually, and that's never occurred to me. Wow.
Exactly. That's why people come on my show, so that I can ask the good questions.
I know, it's amazing.
I don't know her. I don't know that girl. I never was on her show. I don't know her. But no, think about that a moment. If you need a moment to think about it, I'll ask you something else, which I will. So think about that, and you can let me know, obviously.
I got the answer.
Okay, go.
Because I'm an odd thinker of who I think is good and who I think should be like, the quote-unquote guitar hero. I think I would like Stephen Stills to open up for me because he is one of the finest guitar players out there, and no one thinks of him that way.
Really?
I would love that. That would be amazing for me.
Or maybe if you
whatever
could collaborate
band he
together.
chooses. And then
Right.
Joe Walsh, I think, too, because I just think he's the coolest player.
That would
So
be
those are the
absolutely
two guys that I can think of off the top of my head.
I gotcha. I understand. Speaking of musicians, we want to throw this out there because I saw that very recently you were soliciting for a female backup / lead singer. Is that indeed the case? And if so, throw it out there to the universe and let them know what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's nice of you. Yeah, my group is I go out with two of my own groups, and one of them is a trio, and one is a quartet, and it's a usual thing, guitar, bass, drums. But I use a lot of Latin stuff. So there are times where I won't bring the drummer, and I'll do a very comparatively volume down but high intensity rock thing, and people really like it because without the cymbals, and the snare, the sound goes back down. But now I want to add perfect harmony, so I'm looking for female because I would like that difference. I just don't want it to be an all-male band, I want a female who will look really good on stage because that's part of the politics of this, And I don't mean she's got to.
Must be hot.
Shouldn't have to be. No, not at all. It just has to be a real good rock look. I can't have her look like she just came off a wedding. That kind of swishy kind of look that you see on stage. It's got to be a rock chick, like more than anything else. And
like a Joan Jett.
I say it that way only because that's the way it used to be said, rock chick. But yeah, I mean, it's not an age thing, it's not a beauty thing, it's a cool thing, I guess, if that makes sense.
Very cool. No, it does make sense. Yeah. I totally get that. Now, if somebody's listening in and they think that they might fit the bill, what do they need to do? How are they submitting? What's the process?
Yeah, it's simple. I start auditions in 2 weeks in the Norwalk area, but I also probably will do it in the Hartford area. So that's in Connecticut. One's in western Connecticut, the other's in the middle of the state. They just have to go to my email. One of my emails is thesuitonfire@gmail.com. And just tell me their name and how to contact them, and I will. It's not for everybody. This is not a cover gig. It's not. We're not going to play these little dinky clubs, and we're not going to be doing. I do 4 or 5 gigs a week now, but it's not with just. Yeah, I'm loaded. I'm just loaded. But the band that I will have may do. 2 a month, but they'll be at a really nice theater or something like that. I tend to play bigger rooms, so I stay away from because I'm not a cover act. I play cover music,
right?
But it's so obscure on how I decide to treat the songs that it's not like I'm not for everybody for sure, and the singer I need is going to be creative. They may sing a cover song, but we're going to do it our way, not. I can't have a cookie cutter. I guess that's what I mean.
That makes perfect sense. I know. I totally know a few people that would totally fall in that line. I can guarantee you of that. I'll have to pass that along to 1 or 2 friends of mine. Now,
please,
because you're the music, yes. Now that you're the we're going to play a Tom Forst song now. We're going to play Like the King, actually. So if you wouldn't mind, do a little intro to your song, and then you can rest for 4 minutes. Talk to me about Play Like the King. Obviously, I've listened to a bunch of different songs of yours. This one I happened to pick out. Don't ask me why. To me, it just stood out among some of the other songs that you sent, and that's just amusing, I guess. So tell the folks that they're about to listen to, did you create this yourself? Did somebody else? And tell them a bit about the song.
Yeah, I wrote the whole thing. And it came to me, I shouldn't say I wrote it. I think a muse wrote this one. But the idea is this, that when you're a guitar player, you're under tremendous pressure to play fast. That's what everybody wants to see. So the younger guitar players who aren't maybe, they're not seasoned, they'll just go out there and throw out the kitchen sink in every song. Every song they play as fast as they can, no breathing, no spaces. So if you go back and you look at the successful guitar players, they didn't play fast. They played well, and they could play slow like nobody's business. And one great example would be a B.B. King. How fast did he ever play? He thought of the song more than he thought about some egocentric idea on, okay, if I'm fast, people are going to be impressed.
Sure. No, I totally get it. I do.
And so this song is called Play Like the King, and it really is about playing slow and with feeling. So that's the song.
And it's kick-ass, folks. I'm not going to lie about that. So you rest for 4 minutes. I'm going to play it. This is called Play Like the King.
I've seen some guitar players down in Bourbon Street. They're blazing fast and they knock me off my feet. I've heard some six-string slaves in Memphis, Tennessee. Plays hard with a bottle, fast as big as I've ever seen. But they play fast, low down the door, going up and down that neck till the crowd cries out for more. But blazing fast ain't everything. If you can't play slow and lay it down like a king. When I'm up on stage, I'm ripping it up pretty good. I play fast and loud like they think I should. Sometimes I remember that the song is the king. And slow it down until she cries when I bend those strings. I may play fast and I may play loud, tearing up that neck, really working up the crowd. But speed don't really mean a thing if I can't play with soul and lay it down like a king. I've seen the king stroke the guitar neck like they were making love. He played up and down her body. I swear she had him up. But then he turned the strings. He would make her scream because nobody plays that slow and soul like the king. Blazing fast ain't everything if you can't play with soul just like the king. King. That's right.
Wow. That's almost like something I want to listen to for like an hour, hour and a half, which means I'd have to attend a show one of these days, which means you have to
I
be
like
in New York
that.
one of these days. Well, the hard part is when I go to New York, I'm not there full time yet. So what happens is that 80 people grab you and then say, it's all about work. So for me to get to gigs, it's so rare, and it makes me sad because I have all these friends in New York now. I'm like, let's go see. Like Fran, our mutual friend Fran speaks very, very highly of you. And so I could literally see myself grabbing Fran and saying, let's go see Tom. Let's go see him play.
That'd be
I
great.
think that would be awesome. Now, I want you to talk about this. This is very important. 2017 beholds the release of your solo effort, which is on fire. So tell folks what they can expect out of this solo release versus, let's see, obviously you're the same man in person in terms of playing on stage as you are versus a solo effort. But what are some of the goodies that we're looking forward to hearing within the context of this solo effort of yours? Do you feel that this is playing and performance and writing that's up and above the scale of what you're used to doing, meaning you're accelerating in terms of excellence and quality as you age and perform?
Yeah, I honestly, I think my guitar playing is at its very best, and I'm very, very proud of that. I think that my vocalizing is getting better, even from this album. And I'm already on my next album, which is really my fifth album? I can't even remember now. But
he's on like 17. He doesn't know.
Yeah, I've done a bunch of albums, not all mine, but with different bands. But I'm really working on some unique music for this next album, and vocally, I'm going to take a different tact. I think a little more. I don't know how to explain it. A little more melody and less, rock kind of feel. It's hard to explain. It'll still be rock and blues, but I'm going to focus more on the voice than I am the guitar, if that makes sense.
I gotcha. No, it does. It makes perfect sense, actually. And to those of you that are listening in, of course, obviously the website I'm about to preface, he's got tons of material on there, from bumper stickers to T-shirts. I want a bumper sticker, by the way, which I can order myself. CDs.
No, I'll get that to you, obviously. No problem.
Oh, hush. And then, of course, the download card, so you can download music and materials, as well as the CD from the other band which you preface, which is the Jason, is it Grisser? Is that how it's pronounced? I don't want to missay this. Jason Grisser Band. Your other band
Jason Gisser Band. Yeah, he's amazing.
Jason Gisser Band. That's what I thought. So since we're on that subject, before we do our last few closing things here, why don't you tell us a bit about the other band that you play in? Because obviously there's you as being Tom Forst, and then there's also the Jason Gisser Band. So tell us a little bit about what type of music you play to them, how often you're with them, etc.
Yeah, I'm with them almost an equal amount of what I do. Probably half of my schedule is with them. Jason Gisser, extremely well known in New York State. Not so much the city, but north of the city all the way up to Albany. A lot of people know who he is. So my drummer, who I've been playing with now for about 5 years, said, hey, this guy's auditioning guitar players. He's been auditioning for a month already. He hates everybody. Are you interested? And, after discussion, I said, well, I'll just go up. I'll at least go up. So I went up, and he heard me practicing even before he came in, and we struck a deal right there. And I play with him all the time. I'm kind of like his wingman on a gig, the other guys are younger, but I have a wireless setup on my guitar, so I'm all over the stage. I'm kind of like the crazy guy, And he's just a great writer. God, he's great, and he's got a great voice. And that band's going to go somewhere with it, without me. They're a fantastic group.
Oh my gosh, it's so exciting. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That is. Awesome.
Oh, it's wonderful. The music is different. It's different than mine. It's less blues. It's almost on the rock side of country, but then again, it's a rock band.
I like this, and I want to go see them now.
I
play
totally differently.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm me, but I play at different tonalities, and I'm much more of a color kind of player at this band. Yeah, it's really interesting. I feel more like a guy from what band did The Wall, the music The Wall? That I feel like that band,
Really?
Closer to
Oh, my
that.
God, look at that.
Yeah.
Well, if you are listening today, I'll give you the next 3 appearances that Tom's going to be at. August 2nd, he'll be playing at the Falcon in New York City. August 5th, he will be at Shelley Stock, which is in Stockbridge, Vermont. And then on the 6th of August, he'll be at, Abley Park East, which is in Putnam, New York City?
Right. I also do Daryl's house a lot. A lot of people know that because that's Daryl Hall. It's a pretty famous place.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's in
Could
Pawling, New
call him
York.
up
It's in upstate New York.
Okay.
And we do that a lot. And that place is just a marvelous place.
And this was like the part where you're going to say, well, of course, Daryl Hall is my best friend, and I'll call him and say, do Cindy's show, because, of course, I've been wanting him on for a year. I'm sure you're going to do that.
You know what? He's not my best
now.
friend. I have to be, honest. I've never met him. But he always has us back.
That's cool. That is awesome.
August
really
16th,
and thank you for telling me
I'll be
that.
there. Yeah.
Okay, I'm writing that down in here. So here's
my bass player's pretty famous. If you're interested in the guy, he's very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
He tours with Dickie Betts. He tours consistently with J-Mo, who is the original drummer for the Allman Brothers.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, his name is David Stoltz. He's my bass player. I get him when he's not touring, and
right, of course.
And he's played with Government Mule. He's played with the Allman Brothers. He has a bass that Jack Bruce gave him. So he's very interesting. Yeah.
Holy
it's a long story. I don't remember all of it. But he's got a bass. Occasionally brings it on. It's this old SG bass that Jack Bruce gave him once. He's a great bass player. I mean, he's unbelievable.
Oh, I imagine so. Definitely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to do 2 things, or actually 3 things. First of all, I'm going to go through this entire list of ways to find you, so listen to everything, and then at the end you can let me know if I forgot anything. So those who are listening in, this is more so for you guys because you don't really know where to find him, whereas I do. His name is Tom Forst, although it doesn't sound like that. If you look at the spelling, I can't talk today. It's spelled differently than it actually sounds. His actual name is spelled F-O-R-S-T. It's pronounced Forst, like it's in Force the Door Open. So Tom Forst is the name. He has both a personal page as well as an actual business, or I should say professional page on Facebook. The website itself is Tom the Suit Forst, and again, that's spelled Forst.com. On Instagram, he is Tom the Suit Forst. He is on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google+, Spotify, Reverb Nation, and of course on Twitter, his handle is @TomTheSuit, Forst. Have I missed any place or anything?
You reminded me of stuff that I forgot. No, that's pretty much it. Facebook, I'm unfortunately at 5,000, which is the maximum. But if somebody wants to check it out, that's Tom. It's facebook.com/TomTheSuitForst.
You betcha, actually. And that's frustrating, isn't it? I was saying that to somebody. I'm like, when you hit 5,000, it's like Facebook is saying no. So I'm trying to find a way to do that secondary page thing because I don't want to be limited to just 5,000. I mean, I know I don't take that for granted, of course, but you know what I mean? You kind of want to be able to figure out how many people you want on your list. I have a lot of interest.
I bet I drop 50 a week because I think the newer people are some of the new, like, I can tell who's engaged and who isn't. I feel terrible about it, but I keep dropping it. Yeah, I don't know. There is just a quick thing. I was told that there is a way to gang the two together, but I don't know how to do it.
See, and I asked somebody else that too, and they did say that. They said there's a way to do it, and I'm very much like you are. Like when people drop me, I get upset, but then I automatically know. Like if I start talking about it, I'm a journalist. People act like I shouldn't be a journalist. Like when I act like a journalist, they get surprised. Like for instance, I have a big mouth, and when I don't like something, I verbalize it. They don't like that. Well, I'm a journalist. That's what we do. So I know, like today when I posted about Trump, I see the number goes down. Or like if I go ahead and I post about like the Green Bay Packers because I'm from Wisconsin, and I'm probably the only one that doesn't like them. There's another hot spot. You know what I mean? So it's like, darn well when you post something, people are like, see you, bye. And I'm like, whatever. You know what? I'll never make 5,000 at this rate. I'm close, but at this rate, I'm never going to make it. So I'm like, I'm totally there with you. So now there's two more things of business stuff here, and I'll let you get on to your day because I kept you a little longer, and I'm sorry, but I can't help myself because when you're interesting, you have to talk about things.
Thank you.
First thing is, when this show is finished, about 2 hours after this, it becomes archived. So I'll send you a link, obviously, to the actual
Perfect.
interview itself. But anybody can go back and listen to it at any point in time. Like all the interviews I've done over the last 5 years have been there, consistently. So they're out there, for anybody to listen to, obviously. There is a small, I'm going to say small because I'm getting yanked between, my kids leave later part of next week, so I'm getting yanked between going to New York City or California. If New York City wins out, is the Falcon in, like, the city, or is it close to where I could actually attend?
No,
on the
I'm
second?
afraid it's not. It's about I'm going to say an hour and 15 from the city. It's up north.
I got it. Okay,
State,
got it.
Unfortunately.
All right. Okay. Because I thought I got excited a minute. I'm like, if I get to New York, I can see Tom.
Oh, that would have been great.
There went that excitement. Okay. Now, the last part of my show is the only part that's not written. And why? Because it's heartfelt. And, yes, that's right, folks. I mean it. This is where I get to tell you, Tom, what I think of you. And the reason that this gets done is because people listening in may not know. I mean, anybody can be a journalist and look up details or structure an interview. These are just thoughts from my head and from my heart because I've been Facebook friends with you for a while. I watch you, I pay attention, and I've learned lots of things about you. So these are things that I want to pass on to your audience so that they kind of get a sense of who you are. So here we go. This is my 2-minute little spiel to you, Tom, from me in terms of what I think of you. The very first time that I looked at his Facebook page, there was two things that went through my head, which was, holy shit, this guy's got a lot of friends on his Facebook. So obviously either New Yorkers know a lot about him or he produces some phenomenal music. It turns out that there were two facts that I found out about Tom going behind his back. First of all, people are very loyal and loving in his regard, meaning that they have always very complimentary, very sweet, and very professional things to say about him. And second of all, he has a legion of followers that are very faithful to him. And that's no surprise to me that he has earned himself such an elite group of people that follow him around. He is, by nature, one of the nicest human beings. And granted, you two are a bit boisterous as it relates to some of your opinions, but I find you to be highly intelligent, highly intriguing. I haven't even seen you on stage yet, except for all the stuff that I've seen online. But what I can surmise or put together just by listening to this interview and some of your thoughts is that you bring that high energy and that high excitement with you to bring to your audience because it's almost like a battery charge, if you will, for Tom. Tom gets up on stage. He already loves what he does. Now the entire crowd loves what he does. And so it's actually a cause and effect that you have with your audience, which I find remarkable. Not every performer have I ever watched that has that sort of chemistry with an audience. Second of all, you have this presence about yourself. I just feel the sense of a wonderful, warm, and loving heart. You've managed to stay married for 42 years. To me, with not even get to meeting you yet, all I can tell you is I'm not surprised by this whatsoever. I imagine that your wife is as lovely as you are. I imagine that you've made it this long because you're humble, because you're honest, because you're hardworking, and you're both very true to who you are. If I'm a lucky woman, I'll get an opportunity to come and not only watch you play, but be able to stand there and say, he's my friend, he's badass, and God, I hope he comes back to my show and that he was impressed with what I did. I think your work is remarkable. I think you're a wonderful person, and I'm so grateful that you came on my show.
That is wow. Do you
okay?
have like 10 minutes you could explain this to my wife?
She could just listen, Tom. Just play the last 5 minutes, and then she could listen and be like, is she on crack? Is that girl on crack?
No, listen,
no,
I
mean
thank you so much. I thank you so much. I honest, and this is my honest thing. It's not about, who I am. I have a code, and the code is very simple but difficult, and it's that I do no harm, and I help when I can. That's my credo. And I, it doesn't always work, but I think everybody should have one like something,
I agree with you, and it serves you very well. And to me, maybe it's just me, but it radiates within you, your sense of passion, your sense of purpose, just knowing who you are, and what you're meant to be. Not everybody gets to that point. So I'm elated for you that you took a leap and it proved to be successful for you. Not everybody has that fortunate luck, and I do wish you luck, and I will find a way one way or the other to get my ass to one of these shows. It's just timing. the more people that want you to do stuff, as you know, the less time you have. And so I try really hard to make people on my show, once you come on my show, and I've known you for a while, I try to keep those relationships solidified, and they keep them. It's not just a show thing; it becomes a matter of supporting each other as friends. So thank you for supporting my show.
I have to tell you, I think you're great. You are great on this show.
Oh, goodness.
I find that I do a lot of radio shows, and a lot of times people don't know who I am. It's like the priest that gets up and does the eulogy and says the guy's name wrong. You really went deep. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I would love to know when you're in New York. I can come in. I'd love to say hello to you.
I would definitely, without a doubt. I certainly will stay in touch, and you're my Facebook friend as well. So you obviously see when I announce when I'm going there and such. And I'll be there for good. Within 6 years, once my kids are grown, I'm going to live there full time. So I'll be there all the time.
That's great.
Now it's just a matter of, waiting for them to grow up and stuff. And I appreciate the compliment. And that's so sweet you say that, because 2 weeks ago I was saying, and I'm still thinking of quitting at the end of the next month, not doing it anymore. No more shows.
Oh, don't do that.
Well, that's what everybody's been saying, but I'm like, I get 30, you've got, I've been doing this almost 6 years, and there's been about 7 or 8 instances where it's like, it almost makes it not worth doing it. People that don't show up and the disrespect. Well, being disrespected isn't something I take lightly. And I work really hard at this, so I'm like, we'll see how it goes. We'll see. We'll see how the next month fares, but I can't
thank
you enough.
I'm
sorry I overkept you. Well, thank you. I'm trying, I'm trying really hard, and you may want to pass this on to your friends before I forget. In case you didn't see this on Facebook, starting January 1st, 2018 is the launch of my magazine, so I will be featuring musicians on a regular basis. So,
well, let me know anything that
do.
you're doing in case I miss it, because I would love to promote it myself.
Because you're a busy guy. And please, even though I've never met her, please, could you give your wife a message, please? Will you please let her know from me, the woman who's never met her, who hopes to one day? Tell her thank you so much, because I do believe firmly that the representation of any good man is the woman that stands next to him. So thank you to your wife for her contributions in your regard. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, by the way. There's
no
way that I would be anywhere without her.
Without her, exactly. All right, my dear friend Tom, you have a wonderful day. I look forward to talking to you
Cindy, thank you
soon.
so much. You have a wonderful day as well.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye now.
Tell me he wasn't fabulous, right? I have the most kick-ass people on my show, and then they make me want to cry in that last 37th hour talking about how fabulous I am when they don't realize that I wouldn't have any of this without them, without guests, without you listeners, without people that support me. We wouldn't be where we are today. So one more time, his name again is Tom Forst. It's Forst. He has both a personal page and an actual professional page on Facebook. The website is Tom the Suit, and it's forst.com. He's on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, Google+, Spotify, and Reverb Nation. The Instagram is Tom the Suit Forst, and Twitter is @TomTheSuitForst. Thanks, a big thanks again, obviously, to Tom, to his wife, to all of you listening in, to my kids for being patient last night when I was finishing this interview up really fast. Again, 2 reminders as far as tomorrow. We have a double-decker interview happening, obviously 1 o'clock. We talked about this, which is 1 Central Standard Time. I always want to clarify because I think everyone is in Wisconsin. It's Dr. Karen Baruch-Feldman, who is the author of the Grit Guide for Teens. We're going to be talking about teens, clinical psychology, and other things, including some of her training seminars, workshops, lectures, you name it, this woman's done it. Then right after 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, it is the filmmaker/poet/playwright, Keith Boynton, and I apologize, Keith, if I said that wrong. He's going to be coming on not only to promoting Seven Loves, which is his recent film, but all the body of his other work, along with his actual company, which is called Crazy Lake Pictures. All these details are on my Facebook page as well as on my show page. Big thanks again to Hillary Herskowitz. I can't talk today. I apologize, Hillary. Thank you for setting up the interview tomorrow with the doctor. Thank you so much to all of you for listening in. I'm going to get off of here because I have about 15 hours of work to do on this tax project I took on. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Have a great day.
Ready? Okay. We got paper, yes we do. White ruled notebooks, pencils, glue. crew. Target's got everything you need to ready, set, go back to school.